Hi, and welcome back to Andy's Online Lessons. This is part 3 of the blues lessons, and we're going to be looking today at style. Not particularly the left hand style, but we're looking more at the right hand and the improvisation. So basically today it's about taking those 6 notes, or 7 notes that I taught you 2 lessons ago, with the right hand and trying to make them sound a bit more like the blues. It's very easy to take those 6 notes and end up sounding just a little bit stilted, let's say. So I'm going to show you some basic techniques on how to make your right hand improvisation sound more blues and a bit more stylish. So without further ado, let's get going. Let's start with rhythm. Now I'm going to give you an example of what I imagine a lot of you will be playing in terms of your right hand improvisation. I'll play with both hands and I'll play it as though I'm playing piano. So I'll have a beat with the left hand with my left hand, and I'll show you what I'm doing with the right hand in terms of rhythm. Here we go. Okay, so absolutely nothing wrong with that. Correct notes in the left hand, correct notes in the right hand. It just didn't have the style. So the first of the 3 words I'm going to introduce you in terms of rhythm today is dotted or swung. Now, the words I tend to use sort of like drummers, the words tea and coffee to describe rhythm. So if I play you an example of just coffee rhythm, or should I say, let's start with tea. So I'm going to play you just tea, and what tea is I'm playing the right hand exactly at the same time as the left hand. Okay, here we go. Tea, 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 tea. You get the idea. Now, coffee is where I play 2 equal notes at the same time as the left hand. Coffee, 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 coffee. Okay, bit more interesting, but coffee is not the one we want. We want a swung rhythm, and that is actually called daisy, or I call it daisy anyway. I'm sure there are other words. Lazy is probably a better word for it. But coffee is what we call a straight rhythm, and in blues and jazz, you want to do a swung rhythm. So you want to change your coffee to daisy. And daisy, the difference between daisy and coffee is the first syllable in daisy is longer than the second. Daisy. So instead of coffee, 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 we want daisy, 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 lazy, daisy, daisy, daisy. Already it sounds a bit more bluesy. Okay, so we want daisy and not coffee. And the next one I'm going to introduce you to is called a triplet rhythm, but the word I'm going to use, like daisy and coffee and tea and things, is sesame. So there are 3 syllables, se-sa-me. And this is what it sounds like, and you're going to try and put sesame into each of your left hand notes. Sesame, 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 sesame. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, I can't play that fast. So what I would do is prepare a sesame and only use it very occasionally. So mostly use tea and daisy. Daisy, tea, 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 daisy, tea. Sesame, tea, 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 sesame, tea, sesame, tea, sesame, tea, 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 daisy, tea, daisy, tea. Sesame, 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 tea, 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 daisy, tea. So as you can see, if you prepare a sesame, it's not too bad. Something to work on though. That's why we're here, working on keyboard. The other thing, next piece of advice after rhythm is take rests. So don't play all the time. In fact, it may be impressive to play fast and lively all the time, but it gets a bit tedious and a bit irritating after a while when you don't take any breaks. Here's an example. Etc., etc. It just seems it's too much to listen to. It's a little bit hectic and a little bit stressful. So take some breaks. kick your hand away. Why not? Okay. So, third advice, syncopation. When to play on the beat and when to play off the beat. So syncopation is a word that describes you when you play occasionally off the beat. Remember, the beat is what the left hand is doing. So if we play on the beat, we're not syncopated. If we play off the beat, it's offbeat. So syncopation is occasionally playing with the left hand and occasionally playing not with the left hand. So here we go. This is on the beat. This is off beat. So let's mix the two together. Off beat, on the beat. So occasionally try and play in between what your left hand is doing. That's really hard. So it might be a good idea to try and get somebody to play your left hand part for you. It's not too hard to do the kind of repeating C's, and then you can practice playing sort of in between occasionally, not all the time. The fourth advice is quite fun. Jazz chords is basically just playing the notes of the blues scale as a chord. And chord, if you remember, is where you play two or three notes, or two or more notes, at the same time. These are occasional. Again, you don't want to be using them all the time. This is what it sounds like if you do it all the time. Just a little bit too much. But the occasional, kind of what we call jazz stab, is quite interesting. So I'll play a little improv and I'll put in the occasional sort of jazz chord and kind of stabbing, just to give it a bit of extra bite. And finally, the basic advice, the fifth piece of advice, and I stick to this one, and this is what really I think makes the melodies, the improv, sound really good. Hang around C. That's your base point. That's a good place to start, good place to end, and it always sounds good if you're around there. If you hang around the sort of F, G flat, G area like that, it just sounds not so good. Let's put it that way. The C, so hang around the C as much as possible. Keep going back. It's almost like gravitational pull, like a magnet. It always seems to want to come back to C, go up and back down, and that's your kind of home point. It sounds much better, I think.